this meeting of the New Brunswick Parking Authority to order. Please be advised that the notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been complied with and satisfied, and that the annual notice, which gave sufficient notice of the time, place, and conduct of all public meetings of the New Brunswick Parking Authority, has been filed with the city clerk, has been placed on the appropriate bulletin board in the lobby of City Hall, New Brunswick, New Jersey, and has been transmitted to the official newspaper for the City of New Brunswick, namely the Central New Jersey Home News Tribune, as per the annual notice provided for in a resolution adopted by this governing body on December 29, 1975. The next order of business will be approval of the minutes from the July 22nd regular board meeting. I think that Mr. Caputo will not vote on this. I don't believe he was in attendance at that meeting. So, Matthew, would you call the roll?
Commissioner McTurnan.
Yes.
Commissioner Caputo. Commissioner Keefe.
Yes.
Commissioner Ito White.
Yes.
Commissioner Garlotti.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, Matthew, your report.
Yes. The New Brunswick Parking Authority continues to do well versus budget in 2022. One highlight of note is that the authority has received $72,356 year-to-date through August in unbudgeted valet parking revenue. Progress in hiring has continued apace, and much thanks especially to the efforts of Alexandra Perez as our new Human Resources Manager. And by way of example, the Parking Authority had 41 total employees in June and in July of 2021. Now in September of 2022, the authority has 49 employees, an increase of 8, which includes 2 additions in maintenance, 1 additional enforcement officer in the field, 1 additional enforcement staffer in the office providing customer service, and 4 additions in parking services. This concludes the report.
Okay. Bright, not with us tonight?
Bright is not here today. However, I have a brief financial update from Bright, which is that our bond payable, which for some time was an amount of $226,935,000, that has now gone down because we made a payment in the amount of $7,020,000 on August 30 of this year. And therefore the current new amount for bonds payable is $219,915,000.
Okay. Is that it?
Yes, for financial.
Okay. Counselor, anything legal?
No legal report. Thank you,
Okay.
Chairman.
Public comment?
Yes, please.
Mr. Chair, members of the Commission, Charlie Cradaville, New Brunswick resident, editor of New Brunswick Today. Have some questions about the supermarket space, and just wanted to put in context here, since I know, some folks were not here for the beginnings of this, but my understanding is the Parking Authority borrowed $189 million to build this structure and the Wellness Plaza in one bond, and part of the plan to repay that money was to obtain revenue from tenants. The biggest chunk was going to come from the supermarket tenant in that space, originally the fresh grocer. Full disclosure, I was part of the staff there. I worked there for like 4 months when it opened. It was a terrible job, and unfortunately the company that was selected to start that off was not cut out for New Brunswick and did not succeed. They, of course, left town, owing the Parking Authority in excess of $1 million in unpaid rent and other obligations. The place sat vacant for 18 months. Authority was not collecting rent at all during that time. A new tenant came in and tried it. They had a couple different names. First it was Key Food Marketplace, then it was Super Fresh. They also accumulated a debt of over $1 million, left town owing $1 million to the Parking Authority. It's my understanding the authorities never collected any of that back rent despite filing court actions to try. And then the place sat vacant for years. And a strange plan came about for the county to begin renting the space and turn it into a prosecutor's office space. And also, I believe, the probation department from the judiciary was supposed to occupy the space. That plan was hatched last year. The county apparently signed a lease and started paying rent. Appreciate the response from Mr. Kennedy to bring me up to speed on the situation, but they paid rent for January, February, March, and then the payments were, quote, paused. The county says that they never got the keys, that the place is still full of junk and debris from the supermarket, and that they don't want to pay rent on a place they can't use. I don't know why they paid rent for 3 months, but here we are. I'm told by Mr. Kennedy that now we're waiting on, quote, an engineer to provide additional documentation for the interior demolition work, which is one thing that's preventing this from moving forward. Meanwhile, the county tells me it's got something to do with all the junk left over and that the parking authority has to, I guess, auction it off. And I know there was an attempt made to auction it off. And I'm just passing on what I heard from Mr. Kelso, the county council, in a public meeting. And at any rate, whatever the issue is, I think the public deserves an update, and I would like to know the status of the county's tenancy. Are the payments still paused? When might we expect the county to actually resume paying rent? And why are we still moving forward with this plan to make it a law enforcement facility?
The use of the building by the tenant is the tenant's issue, not ours. The next step for us, we've solicited bids to do the demolition work that needs to be done. Those bids are due shortly, a week, 2 weeks from now. We'll pick a successful bidder and we'll start demolition immediately after that. The demolition process is a complicated one, which involved the need for the engineering services at the front end. And at the conclusion of that period, when the county takes the space, we'll make sure that everybody's financial situation is adjusted accordingly. I mean, we're certainly not taking the county's money and not providing a service, so we'll figure out what has to happen with that later on.
Okay, is there any timeline on when you might start getting revenue again?
I think the chairman's done his best to answer your question at this time.
Yeah.
I think it's for him to decide.
Let's get the bid structure back, and then we'll figure out what the timing is on all those other issues, so we'll provide further information down the road.
Okay, yeah, because I'm just concerned about the finances of it. If $189 million borrowed, part of the plan to pay it back is to get rental revenue, and we're sitting around not getting rental revenue. I'm anxious to see what the plan is and what the timeline is, and I hope you'll agree it's a fair question. I do appreciate the response, and continue to believe that a law enforcement facility is not the ideal tenant for the downtown wellness plaza, and still scratching my head about that one. But I do want to understand the authority's financial situation with regard to payment in lieu of tax obligations. I know the pandemic cut your revenue and you had to come up with a payment plan for the 2020 pilot. Just wanted to understand where you're at with making those planned payments, and also whether 2021 and 2022 are going to be paid in full.
Matthew, give him the information.
Absolutely.
What we guys just exchange an email and he'll
Sure.
give you the exact
No problem.
information on that.
Sure. And then finally, just hopefully a constructive suggestion. I can't help but notice the CFO and 2 commissioners are not with us in person today. Recognize there's plenty of good reasons that you can't make it in person. However, this board is meeting half as frequently as you once did, meeting only every other month now instead of once a month, which has been the tradition for as long as I've been involved here. would obviously appreciate if you'd restore the proper meeting schedule of having monthly meetings. But more to the point, there's no reason you can't have a hybrid meeting. I noticed that we do have 2 commissioners calling in on a remote access, telephone line. But the public does not have that same option, right? I had to be here and pay for parking, whatever, to come here. I'm sure you would have validated me if I had asked, but I do think that if you truly want public engagement in these, in your business, in your work as a public entity, and specifically if you want people other than me to be involved, you probably ought to make it easier for them to participate. 5 p.m. meeting is tough for people to make it to in person, and if that's the only option, you're going to be stuck with just me. So I would encourage you to use modern technology to allow people to not only join you in person, but to Zoom in or call in to be able to make their comments and ask their questions, especially if you're making those accommodations for commissioners. I don't see why it can't be made for the public. Obviously, boards all over New Jersey are doing that in the post-pandemic environment. Many towns do it successfully, and it's improved engagement. And I would encourage this board to keep an open mind to changing your practices, especially as we get to the end of the year, and set forth the schedule for next year and the method of meeting for next year. I'd encourage you to look into hybrid meetings, and that's all for today. Thank you.
Thank you for your comment. If there's no other board discussion, can we move on to resolutions? Our first is the payment resolution for September. Matthew, can you call the roll?
Certainly. Commissioner McTurnan.
Yes.
Commissioner Caputo.
Yes.
Commissioner Keefe.
Yes.
Commissioner Ito White.
Yes.
Commissioner Garlotti.
Yes.
Okay, Matthew, resolution appointing 2 new parking enforcement officers.
Yes, this is to recognize and appoint the 2est new hires to our organization, who just started very recently here during September 2022. And this will be for of course, the parking enforcement officers who work in the field.
Okay. Can I have you do the roll?
Yes. Commissioner McTurnan.
Yes.
Commissioner Caputo.
Yes.
Commissioner Keefe.
Yes.
Commissioner Ito White.
Yes.
And Commissioner Garlotti.
Yes.
Okay, and the third is a resolution authorizing a purchase contract with the Hunterdon County Educational Services Commission. Can you give us a brief explanation of what that entails?
Yes, our QPA, Jimmy Lee, had done the legwork on this to secure our opportunity to join this group of purchasers, for which that is the lead entity, the Hunterdon County Educational Commission. And so this enables us for no cost to join in that ability to purchase through the services and goods they're able to
So we
secure.
belong to several of these co-op
Yes,
arrangements.
every year in January we, re-up, so to speak, the membership in a series, a handful, and this is an additional one.
Okay. Okay, do the roll?
Commissioner McTurnan.
Yes.
Commissioner Caputo.
Yes.
Commissioner Keefe.
Yes.
Commissioner Ito White.
Yes.
And Commissioner Garlotti.
Yes.
Okay, does anybody have any old business they need to bring up? New business, there's 2 items. Matthew, what are those?
Yes. The first is an adjustment for our 3 incumbent parking enforcement officers to reflect the wages that we're dealing with for new hires. And the second is an update to a couple areas of our personnel manual, which I can go through these various items.
So what do we need to vote on these issues?
Yes, we ultimately would need a motion and second for each of these.
Okay, so the wage adjustment is to look at the parking enforcement officials and respond to the labor market, which needed to have those positions upgraded, right, salary-wise? Okay. What's the new rate for a starting person?
$17.
Okay. Matthew, is there an annual dollar figure that,
Yes, there is, in this packet, and I will actually hand out this packet, which will show that. I apologize, that was an additional enhanced packet. So this is for the 3 employees collectively, the adjustment for, then by the way, this is effective October 1st of the current
Okay.
year. So for those months, for the remainder of this year, Q4, the cost for the 3 officers would be approximately $2,800. And then annualized, that would be approximately $11,200.
okay,
I would note we have a significant savings year-to-date vis-à-vis our budget in salaries and wages.
okay, that's fine, and those positions are important for us. Okay, so does anybody have any questions?
This is Lou.
Yeah, Lou. Do you have any questions on it?
No, I think you made a motion.
Oh, Lou's making a motion,
Yeah.
sorry. I missed the first part. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Okay. Call the roll, please.
Commissioner McTurnan.
Yes.
Commissioner Caputo.
Yeah.
Commissioner Keefe.
Yes.
Commissioner Ida White.
Yes.
Commissioner Garlotti.
Yes.
Okay, Matthew, number 2.
All right, this is the personnel manual updates. And the packet for that would be this, small number of adjustments. The first is simply, essentially, a sentence or two making clear our primary residency requirement is the state of New Jersey, unless the employee has been here before, as an employee, before September 2 of 2011. The second item you'll see on this list is just clarifying the no smoking policy, which is adding the word vaping. So obviously it says no smoking is allowed in buildings and vehicles and so on, but this just says no smoking or vaping now. The third item you'll see in this list is an adjustment making sure our handbook is consonant with the latest New Jersey state law with respect to cannabis use. And the next item is an adjustment to the sick leave policy. Historically, the handbook has, at least theoretically, allowed for a 50% payout of someone's sick leave up to a certain dollar threshold in the event of retirement retirement in good standing or in the event of death of the employee. However, recently the state of New Jersey, the Controller's Office, has issued an advisory opinion that counsels against the latter, that is, in the event of the death of the employee.
Okay,
So this would strike that, and it would only be available in the event of retirement in good standing. And then lastly, the final item is a similar concept with respect to vacation policy, clarifying for there's an opportunity, not mandatory, but there's an option for managers and leadership above managers who leave upon favorable terms to receive up to 5 days of unused vacation time as a payout.
okay. Can I get a motion to accept that? Nobody has any questions, a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, I have a motion. Can I get a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Roll, please.
Commissioner McTurnan.
Yes.
Commissioner Caputo.
Yes.
Commissioner Keefe.
Yes.
Commissioner Garlotti.
Yes.
Commissioner Ito White.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion.
A motion and a second?
I'll
Second.
Mr. Garlotti for second. Commissioner McTurnan.
Yes.
Commissioner Caputo.
Yes.
Commissioner Keefe.
Yes.
Commissioner Garlotti.
Yes.
and Commissioner Ito White.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.